The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chaos. Representative Zixthor of the Velkari slammed 3 of his appendages against the podium, his bioluminescent skin flashing angry crimson. "Where are they?" he demanded. "The humans, where have they gone?" Silence answered him. The vast circular chamber, designed to accommodate 500 species from across 73 sectors, felt hollow despite being packed to capacity. One delegation was conspicuously absent. Counselor Triss had been the first to notice. As humanity's junior representative, she'd arrived early for what was supposed to be a routine vote on trade sanctions. Fletcher, the senior human diplomat, always beat her there, coffee in hand, that infuriating smirk on his face as he reviewed briefs she should have read the night before. But this morning his seat stood empty. So did every other human chair in the delegation box. "Perhaps they're simply late," offered Ambassador Curill, though her translator couldn't quite mask the uncertainty in her whistling voice. Triss would have laughed if the situation weren't so strange. Fletcher was never late. Humans were never late. In the 47 years since humanity had joined the Galactic Council, they'd been irritatingly punctual about everything. "Check their embassy," Zixthor ordered. The report came back within minutes. Empty. Not abandoned, emptied. Deliberately, methodically stripped of everything except furniture too large to move easily. No people, no ships in the orbital docks. No distress signals, no forwarding information, no explanation. Just silence. "This is absurd," Counselor Triss said, though she was speaking to herself more than anyone else. She'd worked alongside Fletcher for 3 years. They'd argued over resource allocations, debated military protocols, even shared drinks after particularly brutal sessions. He wouldn't just leave, would he? The council descended into pandemonium. Species accused each other of driving the humans away. The Velkari blamed the Curill. The Curill blamed the Methodian Collective. Everyone blamed someone else, but no one had answers. Triss accessed the human delegation's final communications. There had to be something, a clue, a message, anything. What she found made her scales prickle with unease. 18 months ago, Fletcher had proposed new defensive protocols for frontier colonies. The council had voted it down. Unnecessary militarization, they'd called it. 12 months ago, humanity had requested stricter enforcement of trade agreements after 3 human merchant vessels disappeared near Velkari space. The council had formed a committee to study the issue. 6 months ago, Fletcher had warned about increasing pirate activity in the outer sectors and suggested a coordinated military response. The council had thanked him for his concern and done nothing. And through it all, Triss realized with growing horror she'd voted against him. "Every single time they tried to tell us," she whispered. But the truth was worse than simple warnings ignored. As Triss dug deeper into the records, patterns emerged. Human colonies had been gradually consolidating for 2 years. Their trade routes had been quietly reorganizing. Fleet movements that seemed random now revealed themselves as strategic repositioning. The humans hadn't left suddenly. They'd been preparing to leave for years, and no one had noticed. "Counselor Triss," Zixthor's voice cut through her investigation. "You worked closely with the humans. Surely you must know something." She looked up at the assembled council, hundreds of species, thousands of representatives, all staring at her with expectation, and she realized they weren't just asking about the humans' location. They were afraid. "I know," Triss said slowly, "that Fletcher requested military support 14 times in the last year alone, for colonies under attack, for merchant vessels gone missing, for citizens who needed help." She paused, letting the weight of each word settle. "And I know that this council denied every single request." The chamber erupted in defensive protests, but Triss continued, her voice rising. "The humans didn't slip away. They left. There's a difference. They concluded correctly that the Galactic Council was unwilling to protect them. So they decided to protect themselves. But the treaties," someone began. "Which you violated first," Triss interrupted. She pulled up the data, projecting it across the chamber's displays. "Mutual defense agreements you failed to honor. Trade protections you didn't enforce. Pirates you claimed didn't exist even as they preyed on human ships. The humans didn't break the compact. You did. Repeatedly." Ambassador Curill's whistle took on a plaintive tone. "But we need them. The humans provide 17% of the Council's military capacity. 23% of our research initiatives and their trade routes are gone," Triss finished. "Along with their protection, their innovation, and their patience. The reality was settling over the council like a cold dawn. The humans hadn't just been members, they'd been infrastructure. Their military had quietly secured shipping lanes while the council debated. Their scientists had shared discoveries freely while other species hoarded knowledge. Their diplomats, like Fletcher, had worked tirelessly to maintain peace while being dismissed as alarmist or naive. And now they were gone. The emergency session continued for 6 more hours, but no amount of debate could change the facts. Without the humans, the frontier was vulnerable. Trade routes lay undefended. Research initiatives stalled. And perhaps most troubling, no one knew where humanity had gone. Some speculated they'd retreated to their home system. Others suggested they'd found new territory beyond charted space. A few paranoid voices whispered about secret weapons and eventual revenge. Triss suspected the truth was simpler and more damning. The humans had stopped caring what the council thought. She returned to her quarters that night and found a small package waiting, delivered. The timestamp showed exactly 1 hour before the emergency session had begun. Inside was a bottle of Terran whiskey and a handwritten note in Fletcher's familiar scrawl. Triss, I wanted to tell you, but orders are orders. For what it's worth, you were always fair, even when you voted against us. Maybe especially then. Here's hoping the council learns something from this. And if they don't, well, humanity learned something too. We're better off on our own. Take care of yourself. F. She poured herself a drink and stared at the empty human delegation box visible through her window. The Galactic Council would survive this. They'd reorganize, redistribute resources, fill the gap somehow. But they'd do it knowing that humanity had weighed them, found them wanting and walked away. And in the silence the humans left behind, the Council would finally hear the echoes of every warning they'd ignored, every plea they'd dismissed, every time they'd chosen politics over principle. The reckoning, Triss understood, wasn't something the humans would bring. It was something the Council would have to face on its own.